The last thing DeMarcus Jackson heard wasn't "I love you" or "goodbye." It was the sound of his replacement pulling a trigger. At 5 in the morning on Labor Day, while families across America were sleeping peacefully, a 46-year-old father was executed in a parking lot because another man couldn't handle sharing space with the past. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This wasn't a drug deal turned deadly. This was pure, calculated jealousy dressed up as an argument. A current boyfriend who looked at an ex-boyfriend and decided that coexistence was impossible. A woman who became the unwitting architect of a murder simply by loving two different men at different times in her life. In the next few minutes, you're going to witness how quickly human emotions can turn lethal, how a mother of three became the center of a killing, and why the man who pulled that trigger is still walking free, while DeMarcus Jackson will never walk anywhere again. Labor Day morning in Southwest Atlanta. The kind of morning when most people are either nursing hangovers or planning barbecues. The Blue Harmony apartment complex on Campbellton Road sits quiet, its residents still wrapped in sleep. This isn't the kind of neighborhood where you expect gunshots at dawn. Working families live here. Single mothers raising children. People trying to build something better for themselves. But at exactly 5 a.m., the silence shattered. Not with fireworks celebrating the holiday, but with the crack of gunfire that would leave one man dead and another man running for his life. The Blue Harmony complex, with its modest two-story buildings and shared parking areas, became a crime scene. The kind of place where neighbors peek through blinds and whisper about what they heard but didn't see. What happened in that parking lot wasn't random violence. It was personal. It was planned. And it was absolutely preventable. 3 people. One woman whose name we're protecting because her children don't deserve more trauma. One dead man named DeMarcus Jackson, 46 years old, who made the fatal mistake of thinking he could have a conversation with his ex-girlfriend's new man. And one killer whose identity police are still hunting, a coward who chose murder over maturity. The woman at the center of this tragedy is a mother of 3. She's trying to navigate life after a relationship ended, trying to build something new while managing the complicated reality of co-parenting and shared history. She never asked for her past and present to collide in her parking lot. She never imagined that loving 2 different men at different times would cost one of them his life. DeMarcus Jackson wasn't a threat that morning. He was a father, an ex-boyfriend, probably just trying to handle some unfinished business. Instead, he walked into an execution disguised as a conversation. 46-year-old DeMarcus Jackson will never see another sunrise, but most of you will finish this video and forget his name by dinner. Subscribe if you believe every murder victim deserves to be remembered. Then comment DeMarcus deserved better. Or maybe you think dead black men are just entertainment. Explain in the comments why you won't hit that subscribe button. Right now, as you're watching this, his killer is somewhere out there living freely, while DeMarcus lies cold in a morgue. His children are planning a funeral instead of a family reunion. His mother is identifying a body instead of getting a Labor Day phone call. But here's what really gets me. Thousands of you will watch this man's final moments, consume his tragedy like it's your morning coffee, and then scroll away like his life meant absolutely nothing. If you're different, prove it. If you actually care about justice, show it. Because DeMarcus Jackson deserves more than your passive consumption of his death. Let's talk about the woman who never wanted to be the reason for a murder. She's a mother of 3, trying to balance work, children, and the complicated mess that comes with dating after a serious relationship ends. When you have kids with someone, that person never really leaves your life completely. There are school events, birthday parties, custody exchanges, and those awkward moments when your past and present collide. But this wasn't just an awkward moment. This was a collision that ended in bloodshed. She had moved on, found someone new, someone who made her feel alive again after whatever went wrong with DeMarcus. Maybe the new relationship felt like a fresh start, a chance to build something different. Maybe her current boyfriend made promises that her ex never could keep. What she didn't know was that her new love was the jealous type, the territorial type, the type who sees an ex-boyfriend not as a co-parent or a piece of history, but as a threat that needs to be eliminated. Being a single mother is already exhausting. You're juggling work schedules, school pickups, grocery runs, and trying to maintain some sense of sanity while raising tiny humans who depend on you for everything. Now add the complexity of dating someone new while managing a relationship with your children's father. Every decision becomes a balancing act between your happiness and your kid's stability. She probably spent sleepless nights wondering if she was making the right choices. Was her new boyfriend good for her children? Would DeMarcus accept that she had moved on? Could these two men coexist peacefully for the sake of her family? These are the questions that keep mothers awake at 3 a.m, staring at the ceiling and praying that everyone can just get along. But here's what she couldn't have predicted: that her current boyfriend saw DeMarcus not as her children's father, but as competition that needed to be destroyed. That his love for her came with a price tag written in blood. When you start dating someone new after a serious relationship, especially when children are involved, you're walking through a minefield. Every interaction between your new partner and your ex becomes loaded with potential conflict. Your new boyfriend wants to prove he's better than the last guy. Your ex-boyfriend might feel replaced, threatened, or disrespected, and you're stuck in the middle, trying to keep everyone calm while protecting your children from the drama. Most of the time, mature adults figure it out. They establish boundaries, they communicate, they put the children first. But sometimes, you get men who can't handle sharing space with the past. Men who see your ex-boyfriend's continued presence as a personal insult. Men who believe that loving you means erasing everyone who came before them. That's exactly what happened here. Her current boyfriend couldn't accept that DeMarcus would always be part of her life because of their children. Instead of learning to coexist, he chose elimination. Instead of building a future, he destroyed one. She's a mother of 3 children who now have to live with this trauma forever. Yet thousands of you will watch their pain and not even acknowledge it. Hit subscribe if you understand that real families are destroyed by these crimes. Then comment which warning sign you think she missed. Or stay silent like you always do when women need support. Tell us why you refuse to subscribe. Think about this for a second. Her children didn't just lose their father that morning. They lost their sense of safety, their trust in the adults who are supposed to protect them, their belief that love doesn't have to end in violence.
The second shooting comes out of southwest Atlanta. 11 Alive was first on the scene after police say a man was shot and killed on Bent Creek Way. Right now, details are limited, but you can see this took place at an apartment complex, the homicide unit out there on the scene. The name of the victim has not been released.
They'll grow up knowing that their mother's boyfriend killed their father over jealousy. They'll carry that weight for the rest of their lives. But most of you will consume this family's destruction like it's entertainment and offer nothing in return. No support, no subscription, no acknowledgement that these are real people whose lives have been shattered. If you're different, prove it right now. Because this woman and her children deserve more than your silent consumption of their nightmare. Campbellton Road in southwest Atlanta, 2400 block. This isn't some back alley or abandoned warehouse where you'd expect violence to happen. This is where families live, where children ride bikes in the parking lot, where neighbors know each other's names. The Blue Harmony apartment complex sits right there among other residential buildings, the kind of place where people work hard to pay rent and mind their own business. 5 a.m. on Labor Day. Most of America is asleep, dreaming of barbecues and family gatherings. But someone made a decision to meet at this ungodly hour in this public space, to have a conversation that couldn't wait for daylight. Why 5 a.m.? Why in the parking lot where anyone could see? Why on a holiday when families should be celebrating together? The timing wasn't random. The location wasn't accidental. This was planned, calculated, and absolutely preventable if someone had chosen words over weapons. We don't know exactly what words were exchanged in those final minutes, but we know how it ended. DeMarcus Jackson, 46 years old, probably thought he was walking into a normal conversation. Maybe it was about the children, maybe about logistics, maybe about boundaries that needed to be established. He had no idea he was walking into his own execution. The current boyfriend was already there, already armed, already committed to a solution that involved bullets instead of compromise. This wasn't a heated argument that suddenly turned violent. This was premeditated murder disguised as a dispute. The gun was already loaded, the decision already made, the outcome already determined before DeMarcus even arrived. What started as voices in the darkness quickly escalated into something irreversible. Words became threats, threats became action, and action became a death sentence that no one can take back. In those final seconds, DeMarcus realized this wasn't a conversation at all. There's always a moment in these situations where everything could still be saved. A split second where someone could choose to walk away, choose to de-escalate, choose life over death. But that moment came and went in the Blue Harmony parking lot, and the current boyfriend made his choice. Maybe DeMarcus tried to reason with him. Maybe he put his hands up, tried to calm the situation down, reminded him that they were both there because they cared about the same woman and her children. Maybe he never saw the gun until it was too late. We'll never know his final words because dead men don't get to tell their side of the story. What we do know is that jealousy won that morning. Rage triumphed over reason. A man who couldn't handle sharing space with the past decided that murder was easier than maturity. And in those few seconds of gunfire, 3 children lost their father forever. Every apartment complex has witnessed domestic disputes, but most of you live in denial that this could happen in your neighborhood. Subscribe if you're brave enough to face reality. Then comment what time you think this argument actually started. Or keep pretending violence only happens to other people. Explain why you won't subscribe to content that might save lives. Right now, you're probably thinking this could never happen where you live. Your neighbors are too civilized, your community too safe, your relationships too healthy. But DeMarcus Jackson thought the same thing when he woke up that Labor Day morning. He never imagined that a simple conversation would cost him his life. The truth is, jealousy and violence don't discriminate by zip code. They don't care about your income level or your neighborhood's reputation. If you're not willing to face that reality, then you're part of the problem. There's always a point of no return in these situations. A moment when everything shifts from heated words to irreversible violence. In the Blue Harmony parking lot, that moment came faster than anyone could have anticipated. 1 second, 2 men were arguing about territory, respect, and a woman they both claimed to love. The next second, one of them was dying on concrete while the other became a killer. DeMarcus Jackson probably never saw it coming. Most murder victims don't. They're focused on making their point, defending their position, trying to reason with someone who's already made the decision to end their life. The current boyfriend had crossed that psychological line before the conversation even started. He didn't come to talk. He came to eliminate what he saw as a problem. The gunshots shattered the early morning silence. Neighbors who were still asleep suddenly found themselves witnesses to a murder. The woman at the center of this tragedy watched her past and present collide in the most violent way possible. And DeMarcus Jackson, father of 3, took his last breath in a parking lot over an argument that should never have happened. What makes a man decide that murder is the solution to his relationship insecurities? It's not love. Real love doesn't require eliminating the competition. It's not protection. DeMarcus wasn't threatening anyone's safety. This was pure possession, the twisted belief that loving someone means owning them completely, erasing their history, and destroying anyone who reminds them of their past. The current boyfriend couldn't handle the fact that he wasn't her first choice, wasn't her only choice, and would never be the father of her children. That psychological wound festered until it became homicidal rage. He looked at DeMarcus and saw everything he could never be. The man who knew her first, who shared children with her, who would always have a connection that he could never break. So he broke DeMarcus instead. He chose the nuclear option because his ego couldn't survive sharing space with her ex-boyfriend. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was a crime of pathological jealousy, the kind that turns love into a death sentence for anyone who gets in the way. One trigger pull, one decision made in rage, one moment of choosing violence over walking away. And suddenly, multiple lives are destroyed forever. DeMarcus Jackson is dead. His children are fatherless. His family is planning a funeral instead of a Labor Day celebration. The woman he once loved is now living with the guilt of knowing that her romantic choices led to his murder. The current boyfriend threw away his own life too. He went from being someone's partner to being a fugitive, from building a future to running from the past, from loving a woman to destroying her family. He'll spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder, knowing that every knock on the door could be the police coming to arrest him for murder. But the children suffer the most. They didn't choose any of this. They didn't ask for their father to be murdered by their mother's boyfriend. They didn't sign up for a lifetime of therapy, trauma, and questions about why the adults in their lives couldn't just get along. One man's jealousy became 3 children's nightmare, and there's no undoing that damage. In those final seconds, DeMarcus probably never imagined he'd die over an argument, but most of you can't even imagine subscribing to honor his memory. Hit subscribe if you believe every life lost to senseless violence matters. Then comment what you think his last thought was. Or admit you only watch true crime for entertainment. Tell us why dead fathers don't deserve your subscription. Think about this. DeMarcus Jackson woke up that Labor Day morning probably planning to spend time with his children, maybe grill some food, enjoy the holiday like millions of other Americans. Instead, he bled out in a parking lot because another man's insecurity was stronger than his humanity. His last thought might have been about his kids, wondering who would pick them up from school, who would teach them to drive, who would walk them down the aisle. But here you are, consuming his final moments like it's your morning entertainment. Thousands of you will watch a father get murdered and then scroll to the next video without even acknowledging that his life mattered. If you're different, prove it right now. Because DeMarcus Jackson deserves more than your passive consumption of his death. The moment that gunshot echoed through the Blue Harmony parking lot, the current boyfriend transformed from a jealous lover into a fugitive. He didn't stay to check if DeMarcus was still breathing. He didn't call 911. He didn't try to explain himself or claim self-defense. He ran like the coward he'd always been underneath all that territorial posturing. Running was his confession. Innocent men don't flee murder scenes. They call for help. They try to save lives. They stick around to tell their side of the story. But this man knew exactly what he'd done and exactly what it meant. He crossed a line that you can never uncross, committed an act that you can never take back. So he disappeared into the Atlanta morning, leaving behind a dead man, a traumatized woman, and 3 children who would never see their father again. His love had turned him into a killer, and now his guilt had turned him into a ghost. Atlanta police arrived at the Blue Harmony complex to find DeMarcus Jackson's body and a crime scene that told a clear story. This wasn't a random shooting or a robbery gone wrong. This was personal, targeted, and absolutely preventable. The evidence pointed to one suspect, the current boyfriend whose identity they're still protecting while they hunt him down. But here's the problem with hunting someone who knows they're guilty. They have a head start and nothing left to lose. While police were processing the scene, collecting evidence, and interviewing witnesses, he was already miles away, probably ditching the murder weapon and planning his next move. Every hour that passes makes the trail colder and the capture more difficult. The investigation is ongoing, but let's be honest about what that means. It means they know who did it. They know why he did it. And they're working around the clock to find him before he hurts someone else or disappears completely. What kind of person murders someone and then runs? Someone who's been planning this outcome all along. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment decision that he immediately regretted. This was calculated violence, followed by calculated escape. He brought a gun to what should have been a conversation, which means he was already prepared to use it. Now he's living every fugitive's nightmare, constantly looking over his shoulder, unable to trust anyone, cut off from the woman he claimed to love so much that he killed for her. The irony is devastating. He murdered DeMarcus to eliminate competition for her affection, but now he can never be with her again. His jealousy didn't win him the woman. It cost him everything. He's probably holed up somewhere, watching the news, seeing his victim's face on television, knowing that every day he stays free is another day that DeMarcus Jackson's family suffers without justice. But narcissists like him don't feel guilt. They feel sorry for themselves. Right now, a killer walks free while DeMarcus lies in a morgue, but most of you will scroll past this injustice without caring. Subscribe if you want to see killers caught and justice served. Then comment where you think he's hiding. Or admit you don't really care about justice. Explain why you won't subscribe to a channel fighting for victims. Every minute this coward remains free is another minute that DeMarcus Jackson's children have to live knowing their father's killer is out there somewhere, probably sleeping peacefully while their dad is cold in the ground. Every day he evades capture is another day that justice is denied to a family that's already lost everything. But most of you will watch this manhunt like it's a Netflix series, and offer nothing in return. No tips, no shares, no subscriptions to channels that actually fight for victims. You'll consume this family's pain and then move on to the next tragedy without ever thinking about the real people whose lives have been destroyed. If you're different, prove it right now. 3 children went to bed on Sunday night with a father and woke up on Labor Day as orphans. Not because of an accident, not because of illness, but because their mother's boyfriend decided that jealousy was worth more than their father's life. These kids didn't just lose DeMarcus Jackson. They lost their sense of safety, their trust in the adults who were supposed to protect them, their belief that love doesn't have to end in violence. How do you explain to children that the man their mother was dating killed their father over an argument? How do you help them understand that this wasn't their fault, wasn't something they could have prevented, wasn't a reflection of their worth? These children will carry this trauma for the rest of their lives, wondering if they could have done something different, said something different, been something different. Their childhood ended in that parking lot along with their father's life. One gunshot, one decision made in rage, and now 3 children will spend decades in therapy trying to process what happened to their family. They'll struggle with trust issues, relationship problems, and the constant fear that violence could strike again at any moment. Every argument they witness will trigger memories of that Labor Day morning when their world fell apart. Their mother is dealing with her own trauma, the guilt of knowing that her romantic choices led to this tragedy, the responsibility of raising 3 traumatized children alone, the financial burden of single parenthood after losing their father's support. She's grieving too, mourning the man she once loved while trying to be strong for the children they created together. The extended family is shattered. DeMarcus Jackson's parents lost their son. His siblings lost their brother. His friends lost someone they cared about. One man's jealousy created a ripple effect of pain that will last for generations. The Blue Harmony apartment complex will never feel the same. Neighbors who used to feel safe walking to their cars at night now look over their shoulders. Children who used to play in that parking lot now associate it with violence and death. The sense of community that once existed has been replaced by fear and suspicion. But communities can also come together in times of tragedy. Local churches are offering counseling services. Neighbors are bringing meals to the family, and support groups are forming to help everyone process what happened. The question is whether this support will last long enough to actually help these children heal, or if it will fade away once the news cameras leave and people move on to the next tragedy. Real healing takes years, not weeks. These children need long-term support, not just temporary sympathy. They need a community that remembers DeMarcus Jackson's name and honors his memory by protecting his children. 3 children lost their sense of security forever, but thousands of you will watch their tragedy and offer nothing in return. Subscribe if you believe traumatized families deserve our support. Then comment what you'd tell these children. Or stay comfortable in your privilege. Tell us why their pain isn't worth your subscription. Right now, those kids are probably asking their mother why their daddy isn't coming home, why the man she was dating hurt him, why grown-ups can't just get along. They're having nightmares, wetting the bed, crying at school, and wondering if they're safe anywhere. But most of you will watch their story like it's entertainment and then scroll away without offering any support whatsoever. These children didn't choose to be part of your true crime consumption. They didn't ask for their father's murder to become your evening entertainment. If you're going to watch their pain, the least you can do is acknowledge that they deserve better than your silent consumption of their nightmare. The warning signs were probably there long before that fatal Labor Day morning. Excessive jealousy doesn't develop overnight. It builds slowly, disguised as love and protection until it becomes possessive and dangerous. When someone can't handle their partner having a past, when they see ex-partners as threats instead of co-parents, when they talk about eliminating problems instead of solving them, these are red flags written in blood. If you're dating someone who gets angry about your children's father, who makes threats about what they'd do if they ever met your ex, who talks about violence as a solution to relationship problems, you're not dating a protector. You're dating a potential killer. Real love doesn't require eliminating the competition. Healthy relationships can coexist with complicated pasts. Protect yourself by trusting your instincts. If someone's jealousy feels dangerous instead of flattering, If their possessiveness makes you afraid instead of loved. If they talk about hurting people who came before them. Get out before it's too late. Tell someone you trust, document the threats, and don't meet them alone in parking lots at 5 in the morning. If you know someone in a situation like this, don't stay silent. Offer support, provide resources, help them create a safety plan. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24/7 at 1-800-799-7233. Sometimes the difference between life and death is having someone who cares enough to speak up. DeMarcus Jackson is dead because someone chose violence over walking away. But most of you will choose scrolling over subscribing. Hit that subscribe button if you're committed to learning how to prevent these tragedies. Then comment one warning sign everyone should know. Or prove that you only consume tragedy without contributing to solutions. Explain why you refuse to join a community that could save lives. Because the next DeMarcus Jackson might still be alive if we all stop treating these stories like entertainment and start treating them like the preventable tragedies they really are.